That's why I'm in the tent. And then I got ministries. Hoping some of the people that were coming in today would bring us some stuff.
Have you had many casualties?
Ma'am?
Many casualties lately?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We had about 600 casualties yesterday.
Huh.
We've got a good supply of alcohol still on hand. If I can keep away from these troops are getting mighty testy. They need some courage.
How many doctors do you have?
Right now, it's just me. No patient, we use chloroform. I'll try to find you a bottle here and show you what it looks like. Brought all my books of learning and everything with me, all my records. I don't think it's going to do no good to help these boys today. I went to medical school in Philadelphia, sir. One of the best medical schools around. Spent 7 months up there. Then I apprenticed under one of the best surgeons in the South, down in Appomattox County, Dr. William Montgomery. He was 42 when he enlisted, and in '61, and he was enlisted for a year. And I was apprenticing underneath him and learning all I needed to know. And then in '62, when it come time to re-enlist, he was going to re-enlist, but the folks back home in his county told him that since he was the only doctor in Appomattox County, North Carolina, if he didn't come home then, he didn't have a place to come home to. So he didn't re-enlist, and he went on home, and they promoted me to surgeon. But it's we're kind of slack. I'm sure they probably got some other doctors around here, but I'm the only one on this side of the field. I'm portraying a surgeon with the 13th South Carolina for this event. I don't know his name, but really I portray a surgeon for the 13th North Carolina, and his name was John Henry McCain. But chloroform was the big drug for all the anesthesia, chloroform and ether. The Medical Museum out of Frederick, Maryland, the National Civil War Medical Museum, did a research on it, and they have determined that 95% of the surgeries during the war were under some type of anesthesia. 95. Good. That is a tremendous number, much higher than I ever thought. But the research documents it, and so. But then you figure all the surgeries that they did, you had over 600,000 killed, and all the ones wounded. So you got a couple million that were probably in surgery at some time or another. So 95%, you still have numbers of 5 figures of thousands that were operated on. Now, what did they do if they didn't have it? Okay, they didn't still use the alcohol, because the alcohol, it was considered a stimulant back then, and they didn't want to excite the soldier anymore if they're putting them on the table, because the more excited they were, they knew that their heart pumped harder, and if they have any wounds, it's pumping the blood right out the hole. So what they would do is try to keep them as calm as possible. They'd give them a piece of leather to bite on so that they wouldn't break their teeth, and then they had orderlies just hold them down. Morphine and laudanum.
So they would have that if they were ending. Okay.
But the means of getting the morphine and the laudanum into the body was the problem. They only had 3 ways to get it in: by mouth, pouring it on the wound, or rectally with a syringe.
Okay.
Pouring it on the wound, they wasted a lot of it. Rectally, they'd waste a lot. So by mouth was the main way to get the medicine into the body. Introducing morphine into the digestive system makes you very sick. Introducing laudanum, which is actually opium and alcohol mixed 50-50, was a little more tolerant to many of the soldiers' stomachs due to they had a taste for the alcohol anyway. And so your soldiers would holler for laudanum when they were wounded. Laudanum, doctor, laudanum, give me laudanum, don't give me the morphine, because they knew they were going to get sick. Either way, the painkiller had to go through the digestive system into the body to finally get to the wound, which would take in the neighborhood of an hour to an hour and a half. Pretty pain relief. The doctors knew that if they could introduce the medicine into the wound itself or nearby with a syringe or something like that, and when I say a syringe, it's not a needle, it's just a glass syringe. they would get better relief. The patient would very quicker, but once again, they're wasting a lot of the medicine. And it wasn't until early 1865, and the North did it because they had the Industrial Revolution. They finally had the means to develop a hollow needle as a hypodermic needle.
Oh, I see. Oh, really?
And that's when, by 65, most of your federal surgeons had one hypodermic syringe and needle in their kit.
Mm.
And so they were introducing the medicine underneath the wound, underneath the skin. And if you notice on the inside, it is graduated too, so that they could tell how much.
And that's a real syringe from,
yes.
When do you think, 1858 or?
Oh, this one has to be from 65 on, from some
Okay.
time period back then.
It wasn't a syringe.
You do what?
It was a hypodermic.
Right. The needles were
Sure.
placed right in here,
Mm-hmm.
and once again, they came with 2 needles, and once they broke, they just changed needles.
Wow.
But they used it continually.
So
And
did
it's
she
got
know what it was when she saw it?
It's got a cork lining. She knew what it was, and she didn't realize it was that old. When I looked it up.
Wow.
The cork's right in there. That's the part that it's kind of worn down now. It's really loose, but I imagine when it came out, it was nice and tight.
Wow.
$45 she paid for
Yeah,
it.
that's pretty cheap, though.
Oh,
Yeah, it was worth a lot
Real
more than
cheap.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, real cheap. They didn't know
Wow.
what they had there at the antique shop.
I guess
I
not.
guess not.
The most of the medicines back then had skull and crossbones on it because there was a
Okay.
medicines were the medical field was divided into homeopathic was one branch of it, and then you had there's several other type branches, but there was a group that believed, and I forgot what their name was, but they believed in small dosages of
Out
everything.
here overnight, or?
Right there, and I hurt my back Thursday, and it was very uncomfortable night.
What, you mean in the tent right back there?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, okay.
That's really sad.
So, was it chilly, or, I mean,
It
you
got-
go...
Which everybody else slept out.
Mm-hmm.
Being I was a surgeon, the surgeon would have had a fly and he would have had a tent.
Mhm.
Even at Appomattox, if the wagon was able to bring my operating table and all these
Mhm.
boxes and everything, he'd brought my tent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm in the tent. And then I got my instruments staff put in there too.